I say require instead of need, what do you think?
It would be very strange. Yeah. You verify that the baby is okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Of course, there's basic English, first words that you learn when you're at school, the basic words, and then it becomes more advanced if you want to be more professional.
Yeah, I agree. There's an advanced English that we don't generally use when we're just speaking to each other, but if you're doing professional or like academic writing, you would use that vocabulary. I think back in the day, people used to use a lot more, and as time went on, it got more and more just kind of like downgraded.
Even in Korea, when you're like learning English, you usually just learn basic English where you're like able to talk to people like abroad and stuff. But to study for like 수능, like Korean 수능, I think you use a lot of those advanced vocabularies.
Yeah, actually I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume that most of it is the same. And if it's not the same, then we would definitely understand each other.
I'm not sure. I think it's just for like those basic words, like they have like differences.
Ask versus inquire. That's how I would pronounce it. I think they have very similar meanings, but if we're speaking everyday language, nobody would say inquire. It would be very rare for someone to say inquire. In everyday life, inquire would come up if you're making a request to a business and you're on their website or their app or something and you want to inquire about a product or inquire about a service. That's when we would actually use it every day. Oh, is there another expression in British that you guys use?
Not that I can think of that directly relates to this one. British people also use inquire in a formal setting. Straight away, I can imagine a much older person. Do you know the difference between these words or the similarity?
Yeah, I think I learned the word inquire when I was like studying for Korean SATs. Or like, I think we used to like use the word inquiry a lot. So I think that's like a noun version of the verb, right? Yeah.
Buy versus purchase. So it's very much the same thing. If I'm speaking every day with my friends, my family, I would just say, I'm gonna buy this computer, for example. Purchase, actually it's funny because me and my friends have an inside joke about this, like making fun of it as advanced language. We'd be like, oh, I'm so pleased with my purchase. Like, sorry.
I've heard that saying before. It is something we would say. Because purchase can also be a noun. So we would say, yeah, I'm so pleased with my purchase today.
But we're actually kidding. We wouldn't talk like that. That's why it's funny. What about British speakers?
Purchase is seen as a much more formal word. I wonder if over time younger people wouldn't even use the word purchase at all. I think it's a much older English word. Have you seen the word purchase before?
Yeah, but I think I've just seen it on like websites as like a noun. Like, are you satisfied with your purchase? Or like, this is the purchase section or something like that. So yeah, I don't think we use it in ordinary days, yeah.
So we have anyway versus nevertheless. I'm trying to honestly remember the last time I ever said nevertheless. Maybe if I was in university and they said you need to write a 10-page essay and I'm trying to really stretch that essay, I might use nevertheless, but I can't even remember the last time I heard someone say nevertheless. What about British speakers?
I think the last time I heard nevertheless, probably in a book, probably in some kind of fantasy writing, because it sounds quite dramatic as well. So, as well as anyway, nevertheless, we might also say even though.
We could say regardless.
Regardless.
Nonetheless.
Nonetheless.
I think nonetheless is actually more used than nevertheless.
Yeah. If someone said this word to you, nevertheless, would you know what they were trying to say?
I would, because I studied it for like Korean SATs, but it's like one of the words that the students like always get messed up because it's so confusing, like nevertheless, like what's nevertheless?
Yeah, when you look at it objectively, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, so
nevertheless, what does that
Yeah, it's one of those confusing words for Koreans.
Need versus require. So yeah, again, I would think most of the time we use require when we're talking about a formal setting, like this job requires you to be on your feet all day. But if I'm speaking with my friends, I wouldn't say I require food because I'm hungry. It's like, I need some food, let's go eat.
If I say require instead of need for general expressions, what do you think?
It would be very strange. Yeah, it would be very strange. It'd be like you're someone from the olden days,
Yeah.
like trying to speak in this general society would be very weird. Yeah.
I would be very impressed with your knowledge of English, but I would also question how old your English teacher was.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where did you learn it?
We would use need in everyday English. I needed to get some information from someone I was working with. I would say, can you let me know what is required for this day? What is required of me in this role? Things like that.
Actually, I think we also use require in a kind of negative way, like to show like you have no choice but to do this thing.
Yeah.
Like you are required to call me every day. Like if your parents are mad at you or something,
Yeah.
you're required to be at this house at 11 o'clock. It's like you have to do this. There's no other choice. So we have get versus obtain. Nowadays, in everyday life, the most times you would see obtain would be if you were playing a video game and they're talking about, oh, you need to obtain these items to go to the next level. But as far as just speaking amongst ourselves, no, we would never use obtain.
I think obtain is much more of a specific situation kind of thing. If you need to speak with such appropriate to that job, then maybe obtain is the right word. Otherwise, I can't remember the last time I used the word obtain. I think it's looking like it's very much the same when we use the basic English and the advanced English. Americans and British people seem to use it the same way.
Yeah, so far it seems like it's pretty much the same. We don't use these advanced words every day.
Have you ever used the word obtain in general conversation?
No, and I think I've only heard it in those like TV series that's like where the timeline is set in like the middle-age English.
Right.
Yeah, only at that time.
Yeah, middle-aged English, like in a movie if they're on a quest or something.
Yeah.
We need to obtain the Holy Grail to complete this quest.
Right.
Check versus verify. Verify, we actually do use it quite a lot every day, and I think it's due to the amount of technology that we use. It's
That
mostly,
was my first thought as well.
yeah, the first connotation is verify your identity,
Yeah.
verify your phone number, verify your address, because those are things that we have to do constantly in this modern world. But as far as just speaking amongst friends and family, we would say check. Like, can you check if the dog is okay? Can you check on the baby or something like that? We wouldn't say, can you verify that the baby is okay?
Can you verify the status of our child?
Yeah. Yeah, so in British English, is it the same?
It is very much the same. The word verify will come up anytime I have to make a call to the bank or something. Can I please verify it's actually you? Like this. Have you ever used the word verify?
Yeah, same. I think I've only seen it when people are like trying to check that it's actually me. Like, but no, not in other times. No.
So we can say, I feel completely overwhelmed with work, for example, and that just means I have so much work, I feel like I can't handle it. It's too much work, or I'm up to my eyeballs in work. Is that more of a British thing?
I think we would say I'm up to my eyeballs in work. I'm up to my eyeballs in the things I have to do. I would often use the word overwhelmed as well. Like, I'm really overwhelmed by all the work I have lately. I'm really overwhelmed with everything that's happened.
I've definitely heard it many times. in the millennial and younger generation would say that phrase. Maybe like the boomers would use that phrase.
The type of sentence my parents would definitely use.
Yeah, I think it's dying out.
Have you ever heard of these expressions?
Yeah, I've heard the overwhelmed before, and I think people use it a lot. But I don't think I've ever heard up to my eyeballs, ever. Like,
If someone said that sentence to you, what would you think they're trying to say?
I don't know, like maybe they're tired or something. But yeah, I wouldn't say like, "Are you overwhelmed?" I would say like, "Are you tired? What's wrong with your eyes?" or something like that.
I feel extremely exhausted, or I'm totally wiped out. I would use the word exhausted. I use it all the time. I don't think I would say extremely exhausted. I would just say I'm so exhausted. I think the American tendency is to use as little mouth movement as possible. So like extremely, or we could just say I'm really exhausted. I'm totally wiped out. Sometimes maybe I would use that.
I'm
I don't think
totally
often.
wiped out seems much more of an American expression to me.
Yeah.
Completely exhausted would be most common, like, sound most natural to me if I heard someone say it. I think if someone said I'm totally wiped out, I would find it a bit awkward.
Have you ever used this phrase or heard the phrase I'm wiped out?
Wiped out? Yeah, I've heard it before. But I think to like English learners, it kind of feels like so tired, like after like a short workout or something. Feels like, yeah, and exhausted feels a bit more like after like a long day or like a longer period of time.
Like, let's say I was at the beach the whole day running around or doing something very physical.
I
I
thought
would say I'm wiped out.
wiped out is a term of surfing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a surfing term too.
Yeah. So that's why I think we don't use it a lot in England, in the UK, because we don't do much surfing.
Yeah. I think it was pretty interesting actually seeing how similar it is that we don't use those words anymore in everyday life, the advanced versus the standard English or basic English. When it gets to the phrases though, I didn't realize that you guys would never say wiped out. That was probably the biggest difference that I saw. But yeah, it's also just amusing how like those words like purchase and obtain and require, it's like hilarious if people actually say that now. So. Yeah, and it was interesting seeing that you had actually learned those words in school, for the SAT mostly.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you've learnt them and yet we find them a little bit comical if they were used in everyday conversation. It's interesting to know.
Yeah, it was interesting that even though we learned them, like you would find it funny, and I think it was like more of a time-based words. Like back in the days, people used the more advanced English. Yeah, and I think I've never heard the term. What was it? I'm up to my eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like completely new to me.
I think that's meant to express that you're drowning.
Oh, really?
So you're up to your eyeballs in work.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So you didn't know that they had like a comical connotation with these words, like
No.
require and obtain?
Yeah, so people like who don't use English as like the first language might use it outside our country.
Yeah.
People will find it funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Today we learned the different uses of basic English and advanced English.
So if you like this video and you found it useful, like, comment, subscribe.
And we will see you soon.
Bye.